the ones that have the best year, they don't look at December as the end of the year. They look at the middle of the summer as the end of the year. My question is, how do we create such a flurry of activity in December that January is hard to keep up with? How do you sprint into January? When you can get your mind there, the idea that we're not winding down one year and ramping up another, we are just coming into a time of the year that we've created the most momentum we've got all year. And you think about leadership. It's okay. It's even healthy, I believe, for a leader to acknowledge their learning curve, to let people know I'm committed to learning how to lead. I'm not always going to get it right, and that we talk about it here and that I acknowledge that and I want to be better. You will build a lot of grace in your organization, and you will make it okay for people to be in a state of learning when you allow yourself to be vulnerably in a state of learning.
What up, Masters? Welcome to another episode of Path to Mastery. And I want to start off this week by simply saying thank you. I just want to acknowledge you guys for listening to the podcast, investing your time here. You know, I don't take that lightly. I mean, we all have a choice with what we do with our time. And the fact that you listening to this podcast and sharing it, it's just, I'm honored by that. And I just so appreciate that. I've been doing this now. This is 94 episodes, guys. 94. I mean, this is coming up on a couple years now, and it's been an amazing journey, and I'm just super stoked, and it's fantastic. You know, this is November 27th today when I'm recording this. We just hit 10,612 downloads for the month. You know, first month we've actually hit over 10,000 downloads, and being part of this as we grow. The goal's 20,000, and once we hit 20,000, you know, we're into some big time stuff. So super excited. I thank you. If you would give us a review, that also really helps with the level of guests we can get, as well as even more listeners. So again, thank you for that. I got a special treat for you this week. Abe Shreve is with us. Abe is one of the MAPS coaches, one of the top MAPS coaches. He trains the teams that are doing anywhere from 40 million plus up to 250 million. So, I mean, he's spending time with the big dogs. And this is also probably the longest interview episode I've done. I mean, we'll go almost an hour because it's literally that good. And Abe spent that kind of time talking to us about mindset, about what to do this time of year to be successful. That's why I'm getting this issue out right away, because I want to make sure you get this before the end of 2017 so that you can start 2018 right. Just, it's awesome. You're just going to love it. You're going to love it. Abe is fantastic. It's brilliant. All right, that said, last thing I'm going to say before we get into this, I want to offer you a great opportunity. Audible.com. I have personally been using Audible myself for 5 years. It's awesome. You get a book every single month, and it costs you $14.99 a month. You get any book you want. Doesn't matter what the price of the book is. You get it for free as part of your membership. And then you also get a discount, 30% discount on any other books. So beyond your one book, if you want to buy a second book, you get 30% off. It's just amazing. If you love podcasts, you're going to love Audible because you're listening to audiobooks. So I would encourage you to go out and get yourself a free book. As a matter of fact, if you go to my site, which is David's Free Book, Audible is one of my sponsors. So davidsfreebook.com, get yourself a free month of Audible. I mean, literally, you sign up. Yep, they're going to ask you for your credit card. But as long as you cancel, like let's say for some reason you don't like it, which I don't know why you would cancel, but if you don't, then you know you cancel within 30 days. They never even charge your card, and you still get to keep the free book. How's that? Can't beat that. So check out Audible at davidsfreebook.com. Get yourself, and here's a recommendation I'll give you, is called Finish by John Acuff. My goodness, that book. Outstanding. Okay, that's the great. Get that book, davidsfreebook.com. Finish by John Acuff. All right, my friends. Well, hey, for now, I know I've been rambling today. I just, again, thank you and enjoy Abe Shreve. Hey, what's up, Masters? Welcome to another episode of Path to Mastery. And listen, we got a special treat for you today, and it's the day before Thanksgiving. So happy Thanksgiving to everybody. Certainly by the time you listen to this, it's going to be post-Thanksgiving. What am I talking about here? Anyway, we're with Abe Shreve. So, hey, what's up, Abe?
Hey, Ben, doing really well. David, how are you doing?
I'm doing really well myself. And a little bit about Abe, your bio, you're a man of few words. You're a MAPS coach. You've had 8,000 coaching calls. You work with high-volume teams. You're a rock climber, and you're a father.
You want me to add a detail or two? I can do that. So I work with large volume teams. So these are teams that they do at least 40 million in closed real estate sales each year. And I've got them all the way up to 250 million in closed volume this year. And
wow.
So it gives me a really unique vantage point because I'm typically working with larger organizations that are doing a little bigger and a little more complicated, and I really like that. I'm a father of 4, got 4 kids. My wife and I have been married for 21 years, and rock climbing is a big passion. And this last year, I set a huge goal for myself, and I climbed a route called the Nose on a rock called El Capitan in Yosemite, and it's a 3,300-foot rock climb, and I did it twice, actually. And each time did it in a day. So that was a big accomplishment for me.
Congratulations, man. That sounds awesome.
Thank you.
Good stuff. So talk to us, and thanks for filling in some of those gaps. It's great for our listeners to get to know a little bit about you. I just want to clarify. You said you don't work with teams that are doing, or you work with teams that are doing 40 million or more. Is that accurate?
Correct.
Now, if I'm understanding what you said some of these teams just started with you doing 40 million. Now they're doing 250 million.
Yeah, that's right. And I want to be clear here, David, I have a very blessed seat in the coaching world. And MAPS, which is the coaching company that I work with, MAPS has been really good to me, and these are the kind of people that they assign me to. And I want to say that the coaching partnership is really important. Nobody that I'm coaching is successful because I'm their coach. I really believe that. I believe our partnership works. I believe they're successful because they subscribe to coaching and because they show up accountable every week and because I'm committed to hold them accountable. So I want to be really, really clear that these incredible people that I get to work with, they are on the front line and they are doing the work. And, my job is to keep them pushing and to fly them up 10,000 feet and let them see where they're at risk. We work through financials. We're continually adjusting plans. We do a lot of things with behavioral assessment as they build their organization. And, and sometimes everybody needs to just be talked off the ledge, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
I want to be sure that I state that clearly because these are industry leaders. They're doing amazing things, and our partnership is helpful.
Talk to us. I mean, when you talk about teams that are doing that kind of volume, I mean, what percent? I mean, and we're obviously in the real estate realm. What percentage of real estate teams do 40 million and then 200 million? I'm imagining 200 million is a very, very small percentage.
Yeah, truthfully, if we're looking at a National Association of Realtors statistics, I don't know what percent do 40 million. You see the statistics. I mean, it's something like the average realtor, and I haven't even looked recently to see how many realtors are a part of the National Association.
It's over 1 million.
Yeah, they do like 3 deals a year or something like that. I believe that those that are doing 100 million and more in volume, I would not be surprised if that puts them within the top 5% of the top 1%.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's a very elite club.
I would think that 40 million is probably in the top 5%, maybe top 10, I guess.
I would think top 5. I don't think you're off on that. That's an incredible amount of business.
So you're at MAPS. How long have you been with MAPS now?
Yeah, I just passed the 4-year mark as a full-time business coach, and I've been with MAPS the whole time. And I came into coaching in kind of a unique way. I had a coach for many years, someone that we know mutually, Tony DeCello was my coach for many years. And he always talked to me about coaching and becoming a coach, and it just wasn't right. I reconnected with him in October of 2013, and it just was right. I asked him what's the state of coaching, and he said, for you, it's right now. So it made sense, and I went through the process to become hired. And then 2 months later, so I went full-time coach January of 2014, and Tony approached me in February of 2014 and said that he wanted to retire. And would I consider partnering with him? And we'd work together on the calls. And
so you're fairly new to the coaching world, right? Obviously, I'm not sure what you were doing before that. Why does Tony come to you and say, okay, Abe, you're the guy, I want you to take over all our top clients? Like, why does that happen?
That's a good question. Depending on the day, I'd probably give you a different answer. I mean, there's a couple of things that I think about when I get asked that question. One of them is I was raised in coaching by Tony. He knew me. He knew the way I thought. He had been a very important part of my business. Tony was my coach when the market turned in '08, and I was stuck. I was a part owner in a new construction company, and he was there while I worked through that. He was a very important figure during that time. The 3 years before coaching, I played a role at a company called Destination Homes, and I got to work. I was number 2 to a guy named Brad Wilson, who's the owner of that company, one of the 2 owners. And that 3 years of working with Brad and working in one of the largest residential construction companies in Utah, I grew up as a businessman. So when Tony and I got back together, I brought into this a very different look and a different understanding of business than the traditional real estate business. And so when I combined what I picked up from him, what I've learned from Gary Keller and others, that I was looking through the people that have been on your podcast. It's a who's who. There's a ton of those people I've learned and still look to for my learning over the years. And it just, timing was right. Tony and I had a great relationship, and my background coupled with his was just a very natural fit.
Sounds like he was mentoring you along the way, similar to like Tony Robbins. Not everybody knows that Tony Robbins used to work for Jim Rohn, right? That was what he did. He came up, was brought up in the speaking industry through Jim Rohn. So that's probably a part of the reason why Tony chose you.
I think so. I believe that. When we first started, and this will tell you everything about Tony, he said, Abe, I want someone that will be on my calls for 2 years. He said, the first year, I just want you on the back listening and learning. And he said, when I retire, I want my clients to have someone that they know and trust and they're ready. And it's just an option. I mean, David, think about how he viewed his clients, that he would do a 2-year plan to retirement. Now, it didn't go that way. Within 2 months, he was bringing me on the calls and he said, hey, from here on, we are both on these calls equal. And that was the funnest 22 months, because if you were a client of me and of Tony and I, you got both of us full bore every week.
That's awesome.
Coming at you. It was a great partnership.
What a great learning experience, too, for you, huh?
Oh, my goodness.
Now, did you just listen in on a lot of those calls, or were you both coaching the person? Or I'm sure in the beginning, maybe it was just more of you shadowing, listening, or what did that look like? And what did you learn from that?
So I shadowed really for the first 2 months. And then Tony had a little health scare. The CEO of the company that I work with, Diana Kokoska, Tony's wife, called and said, you need to do the calls this week. Most of the people didn't even remember that I was even on the call, because I just sat on the back of the call. So I did all the calls that week, and I got to know, I knew their business, and it went really well. Reports back to him were good. And when he came back, he would bring me on a few calls. And like I say, within 2 months, he said, we recognized that I had a business background that Tony didn't have. And that together, when we put both of us together, we could cover, we were just a great 1-2 for the people that we were working with. And so for 22 months, it was us equally. And I learned a ton. I would not be the coach I am were it not for the influence that Tony had on me in that 2 years working with him. I miss it. Yeah, I grew up under him.
Well, that's awesome that you have that. That's fantastic. That's something you'll have for the rest of your life, my friend. Listen, I want to do something a little special today. I want to shift gears, and then I've got a lot of great questions relating to coaching and why some people are more successful with it than others, and et cetera, et cetera. My awesome wife, V, is with me today. This is the first time we've ever done this, Abe. So thanks for participating in this. It's, obviously the day before Thanksgiving. So
yeah, what an honor.
Thanksgiving. Yeah. And she's with me, and she's been in the business how long, V? 10 years?
10 years.
10 years in real estate, has never called an expired, but today she called her first expired. How's that?
V, how many lives were lost when you made that phone call?
None. That was fun.
You mean you weren't instantly put at the top of someone's people to kill list?
No. Well, I'm sure, but
No.
that didn't bother me.
Expireds are such a funny breed because in our mind, we build up this massively combative experience. And those of us that have called expireds regularly learn that it's really just not that way.
Well, I obviously built a business on expireds, Abe, and FSBOs. And part of the reason we're doing this is because, she finally today decided, no, I'm just going to get outside my comfort zone and just do it. I've been asking her to do this, for over a year now. I've been doing this podcast for a year and it just refuses. I'm like, listen, you already called expired today. Why not just ask a question, right?
I think it's great.
So she's like, all right, let's do it.
And V, just so you know, my wife's name is Teresa, and we are just like this.
Oh, wow.
She would be so great if she was willing to step up and do a few things with me. I just think she's awesome in videos and things. She just doesn't like to do them, doesn't do them. I have to pull her teeth to get her to do it. She's always happy when she does it. She just...
Well, that sounds very familiar because I am the same way. Well, thank you so much for taking a question from me today. I know you had some coaching or something or other with David previously. So when he said he was interviewing you today, I wanted to ask a question.
Yeah, let's have it.
What would you say is the number one question your clients are facing around this time of year? And what is the advice you would give them?
Number one issue?
Mm-hmm.
So number one issue that clients are facing this time of year, it is making sure that we have a plan for growing the team and adding talent to the team that falls in line with next year's business plan. I'm working through that with a lot of people. Their recruiting plan, we often don't think that. And then if I could add a 1A, if I could.
Okay.
A lot of people view the changing of the years, they view it as winding down one year and then ramping it up after the new year.
I see.
And many wouldn't say this. Many would say, well, no one does anything, the last 2 weeks of December. That's what a lot of people will say. However, the greats, the ones that have the best year, they change the way they look at the year a little bit. And so they don't look at the end of December as the end of the year. They look at the middle of the summer as the end of the year.
Oh, wow.
And my question is, how do you sprint into January? How do we create such a flurry of activity in December that January is hard to keep up with? When you can get your mind there, the idea that we're not winding down one year and ramping up another, we are just coming into a time of the year that we've created the most momentum we've got all year. Most people, their December is their highest closing month. And if you and I will just not stop the momentum, if we will just keep our foot on the pedal, even though sometimes the result can be a little more challenging, you'll take market share and you'll blast January. And then let's rest in summer when the market helps us out more.
I hear you. Thank you for answering that. So what I'm hearing is plan and prepare and keep your foot on the pedal.
And execute.
Perfect.
And execute. Your plan is just a inspiring sheet of paper if it's not guiding your actions.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for taking that question.
Oh, you bet. That's great.
All right. Awesome. Good work, V. That was awesome. Thank you. Thanks, Abe.
You better be careful, David. You're going to work yourself out of a job.
I hear you, my friend. I hear you. That was good stuff, right? I'll tell you, it took me probably a year to be able to be really comfortable asking questions like that. So great work, V. All right, let me ask you this, though, because what you're talking about, going back to V's question, is a lot of agents will, in January, February, all of a sudden they don't really have any income, right? They're like, okay, I let things coast a little bit going through the holidays, and now, okay, let's just start picking it up, right? Here's what I heard recently. You tell me if you think this is true. On January 2nd, you need 15% of your goal pending, otherwise you're 15% behind. Had you heard that?
I haven't heard that specific statistic, but I love it.
Yeah.
I'm going to steal it.
I stole it from Mike Dooley. You may know who Mike Dooley is, but I mean, yeah.
I do. More important than the number is the understanding of what that statement's saying, which is just as the key to a really productive morning is to line everything up the night before, the same is true now. The same is true with your annual business plan. January is now. You are doing January right now today.
Yeah.
And have been for several weeks. Mid-October, you stopped working on just 17 and you started working on 18. And this should be great news for anyone that hears this. I don't know when this airs. However, if you hear this with at least a month left, this should be great news because there's still time to affect things. And so when you wake up January 2nd, what you are doing today will line up what you've got on the 2nd.
Mm.
And I love what you're saying. If you haven't lined up 15% of your business as a start to the delivery of your business plan, then I would agree that you're behind. And some people never catch up.
And think about it. And this is one of the patterns I think we get into, Abe, is, January 1st, okay, my goal, I'm going to close 100 transactions this year. And okay, let's get started. Now we got nothing going on. So now it's going to take us, 45, 60 days just to start closing. So now we're already 2 months behind, right? So, and then we plan our goal. We typically plan it. Okay, I'm going to do 100 transactions. I'm going to do 9 a month for 12 months or whatever. I don't know if my math's the greatest right now, but you know what I'm saying, right?
Yeah,
and then the problem is, as you said, everything you're doing now going into November is closing into the next year. So really, you're giving yourself 8 months to achieve that goal.
Yeah, it's true. So let me give you something to think about. You've built a career here. I want you to tell me if you think I'm off or just comment on this, okay? You will deliver your 2018 plan with the team that you assembled and prepared in 2017. And in 2018, you will build the team that will deliver your 2019 plan. Do you agree? And what am I saying? What does it mean?
Well, yeah, I absolutely agree, and I'll have you clarify what it means. But what does it mean to me? It means that typically when people come on to our team, similar to what you did with Tony, the first year or so is really just learning, right? And then you typically don't really start getting into, some people do, it depends on their background, but at least that's the way I take it. I don't know. Why don't you tell us what it means?
You and I are right on the same page on this. When you hire someone brand new, my experience is that it's typically about
brand new,
6
yes,
months.
of course. Brand new, absolutely.
Yeah, and when we're building a business and we're forecasting for the future, we're going to plan on new, knowing that we can hire people that aren't new. We can't plan on that. So we'll plan on new. And so the typical person that's new is there's 6 months until they're consistent.
Yeah.
Until they're consistent.
I agree.
So if I hire someone in January, they're not consistent until July.
I also I'm going to add something to that too, and just I don't want to break your train of thought. And then what I've learned is, because I've brought on a lot of new agents and taught them to be top agents in the market, and unfortunately I compete with a lot of them now, just because my teams weren't big enough to offer the opportunity to keep these people in the past, right? But what I learned from this, Abe, is what you just said about 6 months. If somebody comes in with like sales experience, that window is a lot shorter. I feel like if somebody comes in with sales experience and they follow the model and they do what you say, the 15-3-1 every day, they can have a check in 3 months. I think without sales experience, then it increases the time. I think 6 to 9 months. Because you not only do you have to teach them real estate, you have to teach them how to sell. And some people you can, some people you can't.
I don't disagree with that. I think a lot of that will come down to what your training is like, and so let's back up just a minute and let's frame this discussion around, if I'm an agent and I'm listening to this, if I'm a salesperson and I'm listening to this podcast right now, what does this mean to me? Gary Keller gives a quote that I love, David. I know you've heard him say this. He says, goals are dictators of actions. Goals are dictators of actions. And many of us, when we set our goals, we set them like kind of one day maybe, if the planets align, that's the goal.
Mm.
And one of the things that we focus on in coaching, and I would say, I think most coaches do this, I know in maths this is our focus, is making sure that your goal is completely fleshed out with whatever actions we believe will deliver that goal. Goals are dictators of actions. So every morning, when an agent, whether it's a member of a team, it's an owner of a team, it's an independent agent, every morning when they wake up, their goal is dictating an action to them. Now, the question will come, are we doing those actions?
Sure.
And are those actions producing what we thought they would? And that's where we get into kind of that weekly, adjusting things and working on our skill. I would ask anybody, based on your goal, based on where you are today on your goal, what actions are your goal dictating today? There's an action.
I meet with a lot of people, a lot of people want to jump into real estate or even agents in they throw out the number, I want to make $100,000. It's just so common. I mean, $100,000 is, it's really not a lot of money anymore. And it's fairly easy to make in real estate, to be honest with you, but most people aren't willing to take the actions to even do that. And I see that as a challenge. And I guess, and you're a coach, you're really, really good at this. But what we're trying to figure out, I don't know if trying is the right word, but what we're working on fixing now is being able to have these conversations and find out, okay, is this really somebody that's going to take those actions? Is this person that's going to show up every morning at 8:30 and be in a huddle and then get on the phones and put in the 3 hours and go on a 4 appointment, you know what I mean? The 4 appointments a week and all those things are going to help them be successful, because at the interview, everybody says they're going to do it. But then when it comes crunch time and it gets a little bit difficult, that's when people typically start to, wander a little bit.
Yeah. Well, when V asked her question and I said, right now I'm focused on making sure that everybody's hiring plan matches their business plan. Remember that? That's where my brain went.
Yes.
I've done 32 coaching calls so far this week. I've been working on that's where my mind went. I think you're running in sync with me, because the real estate business person is more sophisticated today than ever before. Think of the YouTube generation. I mean, you and I we can go to YouTube and learn anything that we want. And so people are coming to the business more prepared to learn the business. So how do we ensure that we're getting people and that we're pouring into them appropriately and that these are the right people to pour into? And so I would recommend, number one, that hiring and leading people is a skill. It is a skill.
100%.
It is a skill that is learned. And I would challenge anyone that's listening to this to have a formalized plan to develop that skill. Now, we use behavioral assessment tools that are really helpful. It's not uncommon for me to really challenge someone that I'm working with to schedule that class and to take their entire executive team to that class so that they get a common language, and so that we're learning not just, is this position the best fit for the natural behavioral rhythms of this person? We're also, equally important, is how does this person learn, and what's the best way that we could lead them? The golden rule was do unto others as you'd have them do unto you. In the world of business communication, it's speak unto others as they would have spoken unto them. In other words, as I understand, if you're a driver, if you're more security-based, and I can speak to you in that language, we're going to be more effective together. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes a ton of sense. In the class you're referring to is career visioning, correct?
Yes. And 30-60-90, which I'm hoping we put as much emphasis in there. It was explained to me this way, David, and I'd love to know what your thoughts are on this. The career visioning process is all about the candidate. It's a very intense process. It takes a lot of time, and it's a very intense process to help us go through a journey with them to determine if this is the right best fit. It's all about the candidate. The 100 days after, 30-60-90 is all about the leader. It's all about what I will do as a leader to put this person in an environment, now that I've brought them here, to put them in an environment that they can win, that they can actually go and win.
Yeah, I agree 100%. Masters, if you know me, you know health and nutrition is number one. That's why I'm an advisor for Advocare products. My website is livelongersmarter.com. At the end of the show, at the very end of the show, I'm going to talk to you about how you can get involved with these products and how you can get a free 30-minute conversation with me to discuss your health and nutrition goals. I'll be honest, man, being transparent now, this leadership is something I've been working on for years. I don't think it's any surprise. I was on Pat Hyben's show, and, I shared the story of I've had 2 top teams that have all walked away from me, and I don't blame it on them. I blame it on myself as leadership, right? So I grew up selling. I learned how to be a great salesperson, door to door. I never learned leadership skills, never learned skills working with other people. And you know what I mean? So those are things that we have to focus on ourselves as leaders in order to develop and build these teams.
You know what's interesting, David, and I've known you for a little while. It's been fun to watch your heart. There's backstory here that, we want to go into. I'll just say one thing that I'm really impressed with you on is when we were doing some coaching together, your heart was in what you're doing now. It was in speaking and teaching, and it's been fun to see you go and make that happen. So my hat is off to you for doing the heavy lifting to put this in place. Now, Gary talks about, in the Millionaire Real Estate Agent book, he talks about that we come into this business and we start focusing on creating sales, and we get good at that. And then it's time to hire someone. And our skills at being a salesperson do not translate to being a leader, and we're dumb again. And I always really appreciated that. I can't think of one person that I would qualify as successful. I'm looking at my roster right now. I pulled it up so I could stay honest here. I can't think of one person here that hasn't learned very painful leadership lessons by losing someone or by having someone leave the team because they weren't prepared to lead them in a certain way. The only way to learn these things, you go to the classes and you study and you make it a habit, and then you have to get in the cockpit and fly. You have to start leading. You have to bring people in. And unfortunately, there will be people that move to other opportunities and that really history will reveal were just a part of your learning curve. So can I give you a little tip that'll be helpful?
100%. And I want to read something after you do.
Okay. I think it's really important to just acknowledge that out loud. I think it's important. I think it's important in any relationship to be able to say, hey, I want you to know that I know more today than I've ever known. And I will know tomorrow more than I know today. There will be times in this relationship that I will not do things right. And I want you to know I am looking for those moments. I am looking for the learning. And I want you to look for the learning too. And when I don't do those things right, or when we have a miscommunication, can we agree now that we will come together and that we will work through it? I'm committed to becoming the best leader possible, and to do that and to be able to provide you the greatest opportunity possible, I'm asking your help in my development as a leader. Think about that. We don't have to be bulletproof. We don't have to be superheroes, never making mistakes. One of the best things I think we can do for our people is acknowledge that sometimes we just don't do it right, and set up front the expectation that we want to do that. I'm hogging. I'm really going off on this. Can I just share one more thing as it relates?
Oh, this is fantastic, man. Thank you. Yeah, and this is what our listeners need to hear, man.
This takes me to something that we've done in my family. We call it the do-over culture. I have 4 kids. I have a 16-year-old, 11-year-old, 9-year-old, and a 5-year-old. They are my why. They're my whole why. My whole world is built around being a dad that inspires them and that pushes them, and us being a close family. And so I screw this parenting thing up with routine. I mean, it is, I'm sure you feel me if you're a parent. I know you are.
Yeah, so, of course. Yeah. But 3 amazing daughters. And yeah.
Yeah.
I don't expect to be perfect. I know I can't. I just do the best I can. And I feel like I'm really good in certain areas, and I could use help in other areas.
So when Teresa and I recognized early on when the kids would make a mistake and one of us would freak out, I'd freak out, or she'd freak out, or we would not handle it the way we wanted to. There was kind of this feeling of, if I say sorry, if I tell them I didn't do that right, then I've somehow weakened my position as a leader for them. And we decided that can't be true. We hope it isn't true. So we got together as a family and we established what we call the do-over culture. Now I want to explain this because I've taken this into business. The do-over culture means we reserve the right to ask for a do-over. So David, have you ever found yourself defending a position that truthfully you don't care about that much? Now you're just arguing to argue or to not be wrong. Have you ever found yourself there?
Yeah, I'm sure. I'm trying to think of an example, but I'm certain I've done that in the past.
Well, I could give you lots of examples. Think of a time that you've had a disagreement with someone that's important to you, and one of you finally said, you know what, this is on me, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Immediately, the other person, they're like, no, I shouldn't have done this. Like that fast. Minutes ago, we wanted to punch each other in the face, and it takes one person saying, you know what, I brought us, I'm sorry, I didn't want this argument. And that fast, the other's like, no, I mean, I could have been better. And we come into each other. And so the do-over culture is the awareness that when you recognize that you are somewhere in a conversation that you really don't want to go, that you're leading a conversation in a direction that does not support the relationship you want, that you will stop and ask for the do-over. David, I don't want to be at odds with you. Can I do this over? Now, we talk about integrity. We talk a lot about this with the kids. We talk about integrity, and I like Covey's definition. Integrity is carrying out a decision once the emotion of making the decision has passed. So it's easy to commit to these things when our emotions aren't high. When the emotions are high, we're more reactive. We have to lean on these decisions that we made before. So it takes a lot of integrity to be a person that will recognize that they are leading a conversation in a direction that doesn't support the relationship they want. And it takes a lot of integrity on the part of the individual that they don't hold you hostage by the emotion you created in them when you did the thing that now you're asking, can you do it over? So when you say, can I do a do-over, and you establish this in the beginning, that there will be times that I'll just recognize that I want to do it over, and I'm going to ask you for that, and you ask me, and when you ask me, I'm going to say yes, and I'm going to do everything in my power to give you that do-over and let you do that over, and you me. This has been huge for our family. And in the beginning, I'd hear the kids say, you need to do it over. Like they fashioned it into a club they'd hit each other with, and we'd talk about it with them. Well, it's not really how that works. Now, if you transition to business and you think about leadership, it's okay. It's even healthy, I believe, for a leader to acknowledge their learning curve, to let people know I'm committed to learning how to lead. I'm not always going to get it right, and that we talk about it here, and that I acknowledge that, and I want to be better. You will build a lot of grace in your organization, and you will make it okay for people to be in a state of learning when you allow yourself to be vulnerably in a state of learning. I hope I didn't take us too far off the topic. That just seemed important.
No, I think that's a great point you made, and I definitely appreciate you sharing that. I just want to say, going back to what you said about, Gary, last week I had to let someone go. It was a tough situation. And, I read Entrepreneur magazine, and there was, I don't know why. I was really out of my mind a little bit. And, I was thinking about this thing. It was bothering me. And I saw this little clip from the magazine. I actually posted it on Facebook for my Facebook friends, the 4,700 of you. You probably saw this. Not all of them. I was surprised. I thought it would have got a lot more comments. I'm sure people read it, but maybe didn't comment on it. But I posted it on Facebook. I'll read it. It says, accept your flaws. It's a quote from somebody, a former employee. It says, a former employee recently told me I was the most demanding person she ever worked for. I thought I was easygoing. I started thinking about the impact I have on others and realized that I am a mix of chaos, compassion, perfectionism, and inconsistency. And I would hate to work for me. So now, here's the key. Here's what you said with Gary, right? So now I employ people who are smarter than me, who can also be the buffer between me and my hardworking teams. And those are the people who make our vision a reality. That is friggin' brilliant.
I love that.
When you said that, that is exactly what I needed to hear. And it's exactly why I saw this the other night. And I truly believe that there's no coincidence. Like literally, I went to a Gary Vee event about a month ago in New York, and we had VIP. And because we were VIP, the company we bought the tickets from sent us a package. I never even know there was a magazine called Entrepreneur Magazine, but in the package was the Entrepreneur Magazine. So anyway, now the Entrepreneur Magazine gets to my house, and I just kind of threw it on a table. And then one time I'm sitting there random, and I open it up, and this is what stands out to me in the midst of everything going on in my head. It was just wild, man.
Yeah, that's good stuff. And, one of the things I love about the world of sales and, the real estate world is it is such a powerful personal journey. It is very hard for me to separate the professional development from the personal development because they are so intertwined with one another. And somebody far wiser than I once said that all advice is autobiographical. All advice is autobiographical. And isn't it true? We have a tendency to lead others based on what we know today and on what we think is right.
So when you say all advice is based on autobiographical, what do you mean by that?
It's biased to your lens. Your advice will come from your perspective. And so think of when you were a brand new parent. Everybody had advice, right? Everybody knew. And so much of that advice was just not helpful to you. And it's some advice is autobiographical. And so this profession demands that we learn and that we grow and that we look in the mirror. And I'm in a business where I'm blessed because I get to work with people that want to look in the mirror. They want to understand where they're falling short. They want to understand how to get better. They want to know that so much that they hire me. They hire a math coach. They hire a coach to work with them every week on that. And they want to know that. And others will hold themselves completely hostage, and they'll look at their business and they'll defend the areas that they fall short. They'll defend things that they don't want to do. Like, I don't want to call for sale binders. That's not me. I'm a people person. I do really well with people. Well, these are just things that we say to make ourselves feel okay about not acquiring that skill and servicing that part of the business.
Yeah, no doubt. Well, listen, my friend, it's been an absolute honor with you. I mean, I'll be honest, I have a list of questions here that we just completely went way off that, and that's fine. I think this interview was absolutely fantastic. I'm going to actually get this out before the end of the year so some people can start taking some of these actions right now. I do want to touch on something, though, because the majority of our listeners are, like we said, 5%. You're fortunate that you work with all, people that are doers or high achievers, right? Unfortunately, that's not the whole real estate industry, right? We already established it's about 5%. So the majority of the listeners listening to this are probably not in that 40 million, or maybe not even close to that yet, right? What would you say to those people when it comes to coaching? Like, because I'm sure there's a lot of people that don't have coaches right now, right? And they're, just grinding and keep coming up with the same things and doing the same things over and over. What would you say to those people listening?
I would say that when you look at those on stage, I'm going to use that visual. When you look at the people on stage that you believe have it all figured out, what I've learned by being able to coach with people like that is that their mess is bigger than anybody else's. None of us get to skip the developmental steps. None of us do. There's a great quote by Carl Jung, J-U-N-G, I think I said that right. He says, "That which is most personal is most universal." That which is most personal is most universal. Rejection feels the same for the guy doing 100 million as it does for the agent that just took their first listing. It's really true. And so my challenge to you would be to enroll someone in your life and give them the permission to challenge you on your own limiting beliefs and to push you and to help you grow. And as soon as you can, hire a coach. David, there is something special when you hire someone to show up on the front line for you. You look at it differently. I know we're out of time. Can I give you just one quick example of this?
Yeah, of course, man.
Okay, I'm a rock climber. I wanted to do this route in Yosemite, the nose. Wanted to do it in a day. Now I'm at a place in my life that I've trained myself to ask the question, who's the coach? This is a vertical Ironman in my world. Who's the coach? Well, there's a guy named Hans Florine who holds the ascent record. He holds a ton of records on El Cap. I reached out to him. He reached back. I live by a strict, if you don't ask, you don't know. So we started to create a relationship. He's working on some business. I want him to coach me for the nose. He says to me, let's trade. I'll coach you in training for the nose, and you coach me on business. And I said to him, no, I won't do that. I'm going to pay you, and we cannot be friends. Not for 6 months. I need you to be that guy that was on the poster in my bedroom in college and on the front of Climbing Magazine. We cannot be friends. And about 4 months into working with him, he said to me one day, can we be friends yet? And I laughed, and I'm like, yeah, we can be friends. It was very important to me that he sat in a seat that I was paying for and that I held in high regard. That's what coaching is. And when we just trade, or when we don't sacrifice for it, it doesn't create in us the drive to produce a significant result. I really believe that. And that's universally true for a brand new agent in their first year and someone who's selling 250 million in volume.
A fantastic plan. Thank you for sharing that. That's a great place to get wrapping up, with exception of the KW books, what would be a good book recommendation based on everything we talked about today?
Okay, so one of my favorite books of all time that was really impactful for me is a book called The Power of Full Engagement. They are performance psychologists. They talk about the power of creating positive rituals. So these guys say that the more mental energy required to begin a process, the less likely you'll be to carry it out long term. And that if you can take these things, if you can create rituals that will decrease the amount of mental energy required to begin something, the odds that you'll create that habit are so much better. And so they also say that positive rituals bridge the gap between the comfort of the past and the challenge of the future. And it's just, for me, it was a very impactful book on creating some rituals that helped me break through some performance barriers.
Love it, man. That's awesome. Thank you for sharing. I think what you just said too, coming back to me, I mean, I'm such a habits guy, and you're right. I don't want to have to think. So my outfit's set up on Sunday night. My gym bag is in the car. My clothes are in the car. You know what I mean? So I know I'm getting up at 4:50 and I'm heading to the gym. It has to be set up like that or it doesn't happen.
Are you naturally that way?
I would say no. I mean, I have become naturally that way. I guess that's a good question. I've never really thought about that. I would say I probably am in some areas. I think if it's something I'm passionate about, right, then it's going to be easier. Like to me, health is number one, super, super important. So I'm very regimented, I guess. I don't know if that's a great word that people don't typically love, but I've got a lot of habits when it comes to health. Even my diet, I'm 90-10. 90% of my diet is clean. 10% I goof around a little bit. And because of it, I'm able to stay really lean, For me, that's how I run my life.
So I would say that you and I are very similar in our health habits. And I would tell you, I am not naturally that person. I've worked very hard to learn from others that have done it and to have coaches that would help me establish the habit. And even now, with all that I know, I still have a coach. I still have someone that holds me accountable to these things. And I've learned that in order for me to do what I want to do, I have to booby trap my success. And part of the way I do that is having people that help me. I wanted to mention that because I know a little about your fitness, and it's ridiculous. You've worked very hard to become that regimented and to be that person. And so anyone that's listening that doesn't feel like, well, that's them, that doesn't naturally feel that way, I hope this brings them a lot of hope. This is not the way I was even just 5 years ago. I'm not naturally disciplined like this. I've worked on it every day. I've had mentors that'll help me. I've worked hard to read. I've worked hard to get the right information. I listen to a lot of information. It isn't natural, and time on the task over time. And so over time, it becomes more natural. And I think that should provide a lot of hope to people that want to do more and know that they've got more in them. Nobody escapes the learning curve. You still have to pay the price to learn and to implement.
Well, I'm glad you brought that up. I appreciate that. It seems like this interview is never going to end, so it just keeps going, it's amazing. No, it's not. It's just I want to do over though on my answer because, like I said, I've never really thought about that. And I thinking back now, I've been able to create these habits over the years, but I typically wasn't like that before. I mean, I think I enjoyed working out as a kid, so I went to the gym all the time, but I need to create those habits in other areas of my life. I need to do a much better job with my business and with what we talked about with, attracting talent and going through the process with team members, all that stuff. I got to get a lot better at that. You know what I mean? When you're hiring people, stick to that process. I know it's easy to I don't know. We're going way off topic now. So I'm just going to wrap it up, my friend.
You just said a bunch of things that were you to focus on those that would make your life better. My challenge to you is when we're done here, go write those things down and just catalog the learning. Put them in your plan. Hey, thank you for this time. This was a lot of fun. I want you to know I really appreciate it.
Yeah, man, I appreciate you. And the final question, my friend, is on our listeners' path to mastery. What is the one thing you really want them to take from this interview today?
Boy, we've covered a lot of topics. I would say this. Be very careful that you don't get defensive of habits that you don't want to have long term. In other words, you are a person that can learn and grow and progress and create new habits and elevate your success. You can do those things. And a lot of times we'll hold ourselves back by saying, well, I'm just not that person. And if you take nothing from this today, I hope that you get that crappy way of thinking out of your head and that you realize when you look around and you see a person that you perceive is successful, they at some point in their life had to get that crap out of their head. They got the right people around them, and then they just started focusing on the daily actions. Success is no respecter of persons. It will come to all who seek it and all who apply themselves.
Brilliant, my friend. Thanks again, man. I appreciate your time, and happy Thanksgiving, man, you and your family.
You as well. I really appreciate this, David.
Masters, if you know me, you know health and nutrition is number one, and that's why I'm an advisor for Advocare products. Listen, in my opinion, these are the best products on the planet, guys. You get what you're supposed to get, right? I use the products for health. I use the products for energy. I use the products for wellness. So we have all the different lines from Spark, starting your day with a great energy shot, all the way to pre-workout. It's whatever your goals are, right? It's whatever your goals are. You can check out the products at www.livelongersmarter.com. That's my website. Or reach out to me, and I'd love to have a 30-minute or, anywhere from 15 to 30-minute conversation with you, just talking about your health and nutrition goals and what I can do to help you achieve those goals. So again, products, energy line, or wellness line, whether it's joints, you're getting up there in the age, you just want to take care of yourself. I'll tell you, one of the greatest compliments I get is people, you say, wow, you look amazing. I cannot believe you are the age you are. Weight loss. I've helped lots of people, guys, lose weight, not just lose it, but keep it off with the products. And the cool thing is, I'd say 75% of the people who start with our products, they continue using our products even after they initially tried them, which has been amazing. And strength, if you're into bodybuilding, then hey, Rich Fronin, okay? I don't know if you know who Rich Fronin is. He's an advocate for Advocare as well. So amazing products. You can see us. We're featured on NASCAR, professional soccer, college basketball, college football, Men's Health magazine last month. These are the real deal, guys. LiveLongerSmarter.com is the website, or reach out to me if you, like I said, if you want to have a personal conversation with me, just send me an email. In the subject line, just put Advocare products, and I'd love, like I said, schedule a 15 to 30-minute call with you to talk about your health and nutrition goals. Guys, you rock. Live longer, smarter. And as Gary Keller eloquently said, if you don't take care of your body, where are you gonna live? You rock.
You are listening to One More Sale with your host, David I. Hill, author of the Sales Playbook. Get your copy at www.thesalesplaybook.net.